Imagine typing just one prompt and in minutes, a fully built, validated, and powerful automation lands right in your n8n workspace, ready to go. No coding, no headaches, no endless tutorials, just seamless instant automations. n8n is insanely powerful. It's like Zapier on steroids. It has everything: MCPs, AI agents, hundreds of integrations, and more nodes than you can imagine. YouTube is overflowing with tutorials because it generally deserves the hype, but let's face it, there's a lot to learn. Drag and drop helps, but even then, navigating hundreds of different nodes is exhausting. And honestly, writing code sometimes feels quicker just because you can ask AI to generate it. But what if there was an even easier way? What if you could just describe exactly what you want and an AI would build your entire automation perfectly without any guesswork? Well, now there is. The key here is something called MCP, Model Context Protocol. Now, MCPs let AI understand how each part of n8n actually works by using detailed documentation and tested workflow examples. Now, unlike other AI solutions that just gave you half-finished automations, the method I am going to show you will create complete, accurate workflows every single time. Now, to illustrate why MCP matters, let's just quickly compare. Previously, you could use Claude's Opus Force to build workflows, but the results were pretty inconsistent. It would generate workflows, but they weren't optimal. They didn't fully leverage available nodes and didn't automatically integrate them into your n8n workspace. But the MCP that we are using is completely different. It actually understands 90% of the official n8n documentation and never guesses. It's equipped with specialized tools that pull real documentation and proven workflows before building anything at all. Now, here is exactly how we are going to be making this magic happen. So we are going to be leveraging 3 different repositories. So first up, we have the n8n MCP server repository. Now you can think of this as the AI's brain. It's holding complete structured documentation of over 525 nodes. So this means the AI truly knows and never guesses and builds reliable workflows. It also contains a specialized toolkit with essential properties and operations to ensure that it constructs perfectly compatible workflows every single time. We then have this context 7 repository. So what this is going to do, this is going to keep your automations accurate by ensuring documentation in your prompt is always up to date. So there's no outdated or incorrect information that's ever going to slip through. So context 7, it actively fetches the most current version specific documentation directly into your prompts so that your automations, your agents always reflect the latest and greatest features. We then have this workflow reference repository. So this just contains over 2,000 proven real world workflows that the AI can actually use as templates. So it's going to reference all of these. Now this is going to ensure that your automations are robust, battle tested, and production ready right away. So these aren't just theoretical examples. These workflows have already been deployed and successfully and optimized for real world use cases. Okay, now let's just walk through how this method that we will be using turns a simple prompt into a fully functional workflow. So step 1, this is where we're going to be giving Claude or Cursor or whatever other IDE just a brief description of the automation that we need. MCP is then going to immediately grab relevant documentation from this GitHub right here, and then it's going to search through the massive library of over 2,000 tested workflows. So it's going to identify the perfect nodes and structure everything needed to create your workflow accurately. Next up, it's going to build and validate everything. So MCP doesn't just guess. As I mentioned, it's going to carefully construct your workflow in structured JSON, then filing this based on validated documentation from this GitHub that I was showing you earlier, this Z619. And basically, this Git just has guides and pretty much detailed documentation on everything from n8n. From there, it's just going to run built-in validation tools to ensure that everything is connected correctly and works flawlessly for you. So it's going to pre-validate all the configurations. It's going to catch any potential errors long before deployment. Then step 3 is deployment and management. So once everything's validated, MCP is going to then upload your workflow directly into our n8n workspace, just as you can see right here. So it even double checks everything one last time so that your workflow is immediately ready for real world use case. So just to give you guys a quick example of something that we have already built out, what we've done is we came into Claude and I said, okay, so I run a digital marketing agency and we use all kinds of tools that we want to automate workflows for, but I don't know what to automate first. Based on the example of having a marketing agency doing 2.8 million selling social media management, PPC ads, and content creation, can you come up with a draft workflow on anything that would work perfectly or at least be drafted perfectly, that would use things like HubSpot, maybe Asana, Google Workspace, and Slack. Just come up with a workflow that would make sense for us to start off with as a foundational starting point. Add it to n8n once you are actually finished. Now, we could go down to this bottom right here. We can see right away that we already have access to n8n MCP, n8n workflow documentation, which is going to be all the different n8n automations, all these different, the 2000 plus workflows, and then the context 7 documentation, which is going to be n8n guides and information. So we can open up the n8n MCP. And this is just going to be a range of different tasks. So we are able to look at the tools documentation, list out the nodes, get nodes info, list out AI tools. We can create workflows, get templates, validate workflows. There's so much that it can do. And we can add more to this as well. So let's go ahead and back out. Now, what it was going to do, it was going to leverage the tools documentation. So from here, it mapped out the workflow automation using the integrated marketing tools. And then it said, okay, I found both HubSpot nodes. I'll need the trigger for when deals are won. And we could go down a little bit further. It's going to grab the node essentials. So then you're going to validate some of the nodes. And then down here, it's going to actually create the workflow. So we can see what this workflow actually does. So it's going to list out some of the triggers. It's going to list out the format. We can come over on the right side, and I'll expand this just a little bit. We can see a further breakdown of this entire system. So this says this fully functional multi-agent workflow automates the entire client intake and matter setup process for your law firm. When a deal is marked as one in HubSpot, the system automatically creates a matter in Clio, generates legal documentation, templates, creates tests in Microsoft Teams, notifies the appropriate team channels, and updates HubSpot with completion status. So we can go over this a little bit further, but I am just going to be showing you guys what it actually looks like inside of n8n. So we can see right here, HubSpot deal, when it is won, we can open this up a little bit. So when a deal property is changed, obviously we have to connect our credentials. That's really going to be the only hiccup about this, is that you have to input your login, your API keys, and all that stuff for HubSpot or whatever it may be. Or I haven't tested it out myself, but I believe you would be able to type in your API key and it would be able to connect your credentials, but I haven't tested it out. I wanted to get this out there as quick as possible for you guys. Next up, it's going to be grabbing the deal details. And then here is the legal operations AI agent. And we can open this up a little bit and see what it has created for us. So it's added some mappings for us. So the contact will actually have to flip this to expressions for some of these to be mapped out properly, but it provided us with coordinating the following actions. We can open this up a little bit further. So we can see down here, we have all these different tools. So we have creating the Teams task, we have generating legal documents, notifying Teams channel, and creating Clio matter. So each one, we do have to obviously provide our credentials and log in with each one. It's not going to magically be able to put everything in. As I mentioned, would have to test that out if you wanted to provide your logins and everything like that and your API keys inside of Claude. So we see it also mapped out our LLM right here, but this is pretty much what we would be looking for. And we can get a lot crazier, and I will be showing you guys what else you can be creating with this yourself. But of course, I want to see what you guys are building and what you guys have created. So drop in the comments what you're working on, what you created, and feel free to drop it in my skill community or just in the comments below. Would love to see what you guys are working on. But in any case, let me show you guys how you can actually be building this out. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go back into Claude, and we're going to go up to the top. If you can see Claude right here, it wants to go to your settings. And we'll then have to find our developer settings within right here. We can see we already have these few different integrations that we added. We want to look for this edit config. Once this opens up, we will want to edit this config. You can either use something like Claude or another text editor. I'm just using Claude to edit all of this. Now I'm going to delete everything, and we're going to start from complete scratch. So we're going to have to input the JSON, which we're of course going to have AI help us with. So let's go ahead and go back to our Git repositories, and let's start off with this n8n MCP. So if we scroll down a little bit, and of course I will have links down below in the description. If you want a little bit more detailed guide in the specific JSONs, I will have that available for completely free in my school community. Join that, link is down below in the description. But we will want to look for adding to Claude desktop config. So feel free to just Command F and find it through there. It would be Claude desktop. Yeah, so right here. And they do provide further instructions on everything else. So how to install Docker, how to use this with Docker, whatever. And they even give you a prompt, as you can see right here, for guiding your MCPs to build agents for you. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's start off with the fundamentals, which is just going to be getting everything set up within Claude. So to add everything into our Claude desktop, we are actually going to be leveraging a tool called Git MCP. So what we're going to be doing with this is using it to make it easier to get all the JSONs that we're going to be needing to input into Claude. It's just going to make our lives easier, especially if you're a little less technical. And actually shout outs to Marcus Chef, because I found this through one of his videos. So if you're watching, appreciate for showing us all this. But anyways, let's move forward, and we are going to go to GitHub. And instead of GitHub, we're just going to replace that with Git mcp.io, we'll remove the .com, and that's just going to be the same thing as searching up this guy's repository. It just makes it a little bit easier. And if we go to the Claude desktop, we're going to copy this right here. We then want to do the same thing for the other two repositories that we are going to be using, and that's going to be this guy's Z619. We're going to be using his GitHub repository, his 2000 n8n workflows. So if we type out git mcp.io, remove the .com, we're going to grab the same thing in the same spot. Make sure you're doing it on Claude desktop, or if you're using cursor, then obviously you would want to select on cursor and git mcp.io. Okay, so last one. If you guys have any other Git repositories that you want to use, then feel free to do the same thing and you can add them yourself. Now, once we actually have this, we are going to be combining everything into one unified JSON. We can see we've already done this. I say, give me one unified JSON file output out of these three JSONs. And I just pasted exactly what I copied from those three repositories. So we can see the n8n workflow documentations, the n8n MCP, and the MCP servers. And then it's going to output something that looks like this. We're going to copy this. We're then going to go back into the config that we opened up earlier. So again, you will need a text editor for this. And let's paste this in. Let's go to File, and let's save this really quick. Okay. Now, if we go back into Claude, we will actually have to close this out. It's basically just going to refresh it for us. So let's quit, reopen Claude. It might take Claude a few seconds for it to populate everything. So see, it doesn't pull up right now. If I click on add integrations, it'll usually show up. So let's go ahead and go back again and see if it's in there, or I might have to quit once again. So if it's not coming up right away, despite adding and following these specific instructions, don't get too worried. Okay, well, for some reason, it took me a couple times. I had to quit Claude for this to actually populate. And we can see right here, we have n8n workflow docs, we have context 7 docs, and we have n8n MCP docs. So what I can actually do is I'm going to open up a previous workflow. Let's find what we were just working on. And I just said the same exact thing that I was showing you earlier, but this time I didn't have it automatically created in n8n because we don't have that feature yet integrated. I'll be showing you a little bit later in this video how you can actually set this up so that I can build everything inside of n8n for you. Just stick around. But essentially what it can do right now is use all these different integrations to create you the JSON, which you can copy and paste into n8n. So if I grab this right here, we're going to copy this, and I'm going to open up a new n8n workflow, and I'm just going to paste it in, and you can see this is what we get. So we have the HubSpot deal 1 trigger, get the company details, process the client data. It is a little bit messy, so we probably could have mentioned to make sure that everything is tidy, and even to add some notes up here. Unfortunately, we have an error right here scheduling the kickoff meeting, but we'll be able to tweak some things later to make sure that these workflows are actually going to be spot on for us. But we have the creating documents folder, creating assets folder, and all this stuff, which is what we are looking for. So it's a bit messy right now, but if you are a beginner, this is going to be game changing for you because it's going to help you just be able to provide prompts and really guide you into being able to build some crazy automations and give you some detailed instructions on how you can be going about this. So that is the first step. I would consider this to be the easier part. The next step is going to be using Docker so that we can use Claude to automatically build out these agents and these workflows inside of n8n completely for us. So let's get started doing that. Now, the first step we are going to have to do, if you haven't already, is download Docker. If you've been in this n8n space for a minute, you might already have been using it, but you can do this through the terminal, or you could just go ahead and search Docker, download, and you will see it's one of the first few options. You can download through right here. Signing up for an account is completely free. And then downloading to whatever you are using, Windows, Mac, whatever. Now, if you want to do everything through the terminal, what you can actually do is if you go to this n8n MCP, you could scroll down just a little bit, and I missed it. You can see install Docker. It gives you the exact stuff that you can be pasting straight into your terminal, making it super easy for you. So you can do brew install cask Docker, or if you have Linux or if you have Windows, you can follow those directions. Once you're done with that, we are going to be utilizing this final. I promise it's going to be the last GitHub repository that we are going to be using. We're going to be utilizing the self-hosted AI starter kit. So you do not have to do this, but we want to put everything on our own system. I don't want to use the cloud or another VPS, but feel free to utilize the n8n cloud, or feel free to utilize any other VPS like Railway or Hostinger or DigitalOcean. They're all going to be great options. But for us, we're just going to self-host everything. So if you want to self-host for yourself, go ahead and open up this Git. You can watch one of my previous videos. I will make sure to link that above, or you can check it out down below in the description. It's going to be showing you how you can actually set up this self-hosted AI starter kit inside of Docker for completely free. You can use everything like Olama, Postgres, and all that stuff for free. But in any case, getting back on track, what we are then going to be doing is we're going to pull the Docker image. So we can just copy this and we can go into our terminal and we can paste it in. So I'm not going to enter it because I already have this installed. But what it is going to do is it is going to give us this n8n MCP right inside of Docker for us. We can see that we already have this self-hosted AI starter kit. We can open this up, goes to it right now. But we can see the n8n MCP right here. And this is going to allow us to utilize this MCP properly. Now, the final thing that we have to do is getting our n8n URL endpoint and also our API key. So again, we are going to be using the self-hosted n8n. So for me, I'm going to log in and I'm going to be copying this right here. It may look a little bit different what we actually have to type in, but for you, it's going to be everything up to, I believe, the first slash. So we'll grab that. And then we are also going to go into our settings and grabbing our API key. So we can see n8n API key and go ahead and just create one right there and copy it. I'm not going to show you guys my key, of course, but once we get this, we'll then go back to the n8n MCP and we are going to look for this right here, this basic configuration. We're going to copy the second one. It is going to say n8n API URL and n8n API key. We can then actually put this into something similar from before. And what we are saying is, okay, now I need you to replace that version with this now, but make sure it's to still include the other two JSONs. So what I'm referring to there is we have three different JSONs from earlier. So we have the n8n MCP documentation, we have the n8n workflow documentation, and the context 7. We're going to be still using the other two, but we're now going to be inputting the new MCP server with our API key and with our n8n URL. So it's going to be able to post everything into our n8n workflow. So it's going to look something like this, and we're just going to copy it. I'll actually open this up in the artifact. I'll copy this and we're just going to go back to Claude. We'll go back into the settings and we'll have to change this one more time. We'll find our developer config and we're going to open up this JSON. We can delete everything that we currently have and let's paste it in. And let's save this one last time and let's close out Claude and let's restart it. Now, really quick before we continue, I just wanted to mention that if you guys are interested in seeing more content like this, then check out my YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe because we are posting at least twice a week of videos like this, how to build automations, how to sell automations, how to get clients, and even where you can network with people to just learn more about the space and meet some awesome people. We have a little over 8,000 people within our free community. You can join that. Link is down below in the description. But anyways, let's get back to the video. Okay, Cloud just opened up and we can see we open up our integrations and we now have n8n MCP just like we should. We have the tools documentation, we have the listing of the nodes, we have getting workflow minimal, deleting workflows, listing workflows. So if we want, we could type out, I need you to delete what you had already created. I don't know how that's going to be relevant to you, but now I want to show off some of its capabilities. So what I said is I want to build a new workflow that has agents in it. It should be multi-agentic, and you can reference examples of agent workflows as well as look at the tools at your disposal in the agent tools. I want to be able to plan out a workflow to automate my process for my law firm. We use things like Clio as well as HubSpot and Microsoft Teams as well. So come up with a plan for a workflow that we could put together. So the goal is to have this actually create everything inside of n8n for us, and I'll show you what that would look like. So it says, great, I found the AI agent node. It's going to search for nodes. It didn't find that there was any direct Clio integration, but it recognized that it could use the HTTP request nodes to instead, which is pretty interesting. It is going to search for more nodes, search for templates. So it is trying to find any AI related templates instead, get templates for that task, list out some of the AI tools, get the node essentials, search for more nodes, and so on. And what it came up with is it's saying, based on your law firm's need with Clio, HubSpot, and Teams, I'll design a comprehensive multi-agent workflow that automates key processes in legal operations. So step one is the client intake agent, all the way down to the communication agent. So here's the architecture design. So it's actually planning everything for us, starting off with when a HubSpot deal is won, going to the main orchestrator agent, and then breaking that down into different tasks and a communication agent and so on. So here's the detailed agent workflow, the client intake agent, then the document analysis agent, legal research agent, and the task management agent right here. And of course, communication agent. So it's then saying, let me create a starter workflow that demonstrates the client intake agent. So it didn't build out everything just yet. So it's going to generate these artifacts, and then it's going to map out the supporting workflow documentation, sketch visual diagram for multi-agent workflow architecture, and so on. Now at this point, this is when I ran out of credits, so I wasn't able to build out the rest of the workflow, unfortunately, which doesn't reset until about 4 hours from now, and that's even using the max. So the usage does run up pretty quickly. So make sure that you are capitalizing on all of your queries and making sure that you are concise in your questioning. But if we come into n8n, this is what it came up with. So this is just the intake. So if we just open up our overview, we can see that it automatically created this, which one would it be? Law firm multi-agent automation. Now this is just, again, the client intake process, which I was showing earlier in the video, which is just one piece of the puzzle. But if I wanted to generate the other workflows, it was going to take some more usage, which obviously I have to wait a few more hours for it to reset, unfortunately. So it does run up pretty quickly. Now, the last thing that I do want to show you is using this prompt right here. So copying this Claude project setup. So we're actually just going to copy it, and it's going to give us specific instructions on what to use to provide Claude with the best guide on how to actually give us the best workflows, the best agents, and going through a proper process. So we're doing this through the project. So I'm going to open up the project, and I already created one called n8n Assistant. And you can see within this project knowledge right here, I just pasted it inside. So it says you're an expert in n8n automations, and it's basically just giving it a specific order of operations, as I mentioned way earlier on. So the proper process to follow, how you should be going about everything. Here's some example workflows. Here's how to deploy properly. And here's some rules to follow. Now, you don't have to use Claude for this. You can also be using something like Cursor or any other IDE like Windsurf, or I believe LM Studio would be another one. But if you wanted to do this within Cursor, all you would have to do is open it up, and you could basically be copying the same JSON that you were just taking and putting it into your settings as well. So open up a project, and then you're going to be putting those repos in there. But perhaps in another video, if you guys want me to show you how you can put this within Cursor, if you guys use that and prefer to use Cursor over Claude, I'll show you guys. But in any case, this has been able to build some really cool automations and workflows for myself, and I highly recommend you guys check this out as well, especially if you are a beginner, because it's going to help clear some of the frustration and allow you to build a lot faster and more accurately. But in any case, thank you guys for watching. And if you want the JSONs for everything, then go ahead and join my Skull community. It's completely free. Link is down below in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe. Let me know down in the comments. I really appreciate it. But anyways, I will see you guys in the next video.